So once again, welcome everyone to BlinkOn 7 in exotic Sunnyvale. This is a picture we took just this morning. Isn't it gorgeous? My name is Emil. I lead the layout team.
And my name is Josh. I lead the storage team. Just to introduce ourselves, because not everyone here knows us. We're both out of San Francisco. But other than that, we're fairly different people. I mean, obviously we work on different things. And just by looking at us, you can see Emil, sharply dressed. I'm a testing one, two. I'm a bit of a slob. Emil's natural environment is on an airplane, flying somewhere exotic. I tend to be a homebody. I could go on and on and on, but the important thing is we do have a few things in common. We're both fans of typography. We enjoy a good mixed tropical cocktail, and we have an unhealthy obsession with Unicode. So really, you can sum up why we get along so well with this. And if you haven't memorized Unicode, so if you want to get our attention, this is it. Okay, welcome to BlinkOn. Welcome to BlinkOn 7. Welcome to those of you from around the world who are able to make it here. Welcome to those of you who are watching it streaming or perhaps watching it recorded. And our hearts go out to those of you who wanted to attend but were prevented at the last minute. You would be welcome here at BlinkOn. As Drew mentioned, here at BlinkOn, we follow the Chromium Code of Conduct, the same as we do online. First and foremost, be kind, be respectful. We value an inclusive environment. Keep discussions about the code, not the people. And if you see something or hear something that shouldn't be happening, speak up on behalf of others. And we will not tolerate harassment of any kind. If you need to follow or file an anonymous report, there's a link to do that from the online code of conduct. And get in touch with Drew, or as he said, anybody wearing one of the BlinkOn staff shirts, if there's any question of physical safety. And Drew's number is there in the slide deck to reach him directly. Okay, who's here? Well, as Drew mentioned, we're much larger than last time. There's about 40% higher attendance this year's BlinkOn, at least planned attendance. And part of that is because we're close to the Googleplex. But there's actually only a slightly higher percentage of Googlers here. So in addition to Googlers from around the world, we're excited that trends from past years continue. And we have contributors to Blink and Chromium from other organizations like Samsung and Opera and Intel and Igalia and others. We've got a lot of folks from other companies and organizations that make browsers. That's awesome. And even more than last time, and some of those are attending for the first time. And finally, we've got even more web developers and infrastructure developers than attended last time. That's awesome because you tell us how the web really works.
So let's take a few minutes and look back at what's happened since we last met in Munich, almost a year ago now. So as you all know, the intents process is the process by which we announce things that we intend to work on or ship. And it's a way for us to be transparent and engage with the larger web community. And over the last year, we've seen an upwards trend in not only the number of intents we've sent out, but also, and perhaps more importantly, the amount of engagement we've seen on each intent. And this has been true across all types of intents. We're seeing a lot of engagement from web developers, from other implementers, and from the spec bodies. And this is great, and the process is working the way it's supposed to. Another thing that's really exciting is that we're seeing more and more of the intents sent by people that are not Google employees, showing that this is a project that's so much bigger than just us here at Google. Similarly, we've seen quite an increase in the amount of code we commit. So this might be a little busy graph. The orange line is the number of commits over time. And this is for all of Chrome, or at least content, not just Blink. While the red and blue lines are the number of added and removed lines. So while the commit rate has remained pretty steady at about 6,000 commits a month, we're seeing an upwards trend when it comes to the amount of code per change. And you might notice a couple of big spikes here on the graph. And those tend to be large bulk actions, like importing a new library or doing a large test refactoring. So if you look at the last big spike here at the end of 2015, that was a combination of a number of things. We added a new library for WebRTC. We updated all of our translations. And we also did a large test refactoring for Slimming Paint. So slow, steady upwards trajectory with a number of spikes for various reasons. Similarly, we're seeing the bug count go up. And the blue and red bars here represent the opened and closed bugs in the bug tracker. This is limited to the Blink component, while the orange line here is the ratio between the two. And in mid-2015, we started this big project to revamp how we do bug triage and set service level agreements for triaging and eventually fixing bugs. And as you can tell, this really had a big impact. All of a sudden, our close rate went up by over 30%. And ever since, we managed to maintain a close to open ratio above 1.0. However, all is not well. Recently, we started to slack off a little bit, and the ratio is now dropping down again, and it's getting pretty close to 1. So we need to make sure we don't lose focus here, and that we actually focus on not only triaging, but also fixing or closing bugs. There are a couple of good notes, though. For instance, if you look at the last 30 days, all of the regressions and all of the high priority bugs in the last 30 days, we've already fixed 70% of them. So well done to all of you. At this point, we usually show a couple of graphs going up and to the right, like this one, for instance. This year, though, we're doing things a little bit differently, and instead we want to emphasize reductions. This first one here is the amount of time it takes from when a user first puts their finger on a screen to scroll until we update the screen, so until we actually show the result of your scroll. And the big drop-off here on the very right is the result of the passive event listener's intervention that intervenes on behalf of the user for top-level listeners, and in effect makes scrolling fast by default. And this is something that has a really big impact on everyday usage and makes a page going from feeling sluggish and slow and badly behaved to working as intended. So this is an example of an intervention working very well and actually helping the user. This next one is startup performance. And this is on Linux over the last year, where we've seen the startup performance go from about 4 seconds down to 2.5. This is taking a lot of effort from a lot of teams and individuals all across Chrome, not just Blink, but all across Chrome. And what this really shows is that if we invest in tooling and infrastructure and monitoring, we can drive down those numbers. Without monitoring and without tracking, we have no way of keeping track of our progress and making sure that the changes we make are improving the product. So tracking is one of the key components before we can drive down those metrics. It's not all about performance, though. Another thing that we also want to drive down is memory usage. And for Chrome, memory usage has always been a problem. We have a multi-process model where we use more memory than many other browsers. And one of the biggest contributors to our memory use has traditionally been JavaScript and V8. So this slide here shows the effects of the V8 interpreter called Ignition, which significantly reduces the memory usage, not only on desktop, but even more importantly on mobile. There's a talk about Ignition tomorrow, proposed as one of the unconference ones. I propose you upvote that because I, for one, would really want to see it. Another exciting thing that's going on in this space is that there's work going on heap compaction led by Opera that is likely going to improve this even further. And finally, this is a number showing the time until first meaningful paint for a popular Japanese website. And what I'm trying to show here is that it's not always the biggest projects and the largest efforts that have the biggest impact. So this here is the result of a fix to how we do glyph caching, especially on Windows, where essentially we tweaked some of the values and parameters for cache invalidation and all of a sudden got a massive performance improvement. So sometimes even a small bug fix and a small change can have an outsized impact. And what's even more interesting with this particular fix is that not only did it improve rendering performance for text-heavy websites across all scripts, it also reduced memory usage by about 500 kilobytes per page, which on mobile is massive.
Okay, so how are we going to stay on track for 2017? How are we going to keep those graphs going down and to the right? Well, especially for the non-Googlers in the audience, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we organize the web platform team here at Google. Now, I don't show every team here, but even from just what's here, you can see this kind of resembles a software stack. We've got shared libraries used even outside Chrome down at the bottom, a foundation of platform architecture teams, all the different teams working on the parts of the web, parts of the code that actually get exposed to the web and implement all the standards. And then on top of that, what in the software world you'd call the application layer. We've got dev tools and Polymer, the things that actually make the web useful for people. And off to the side, you've got all of the teams that, the cross-cutting teams that like security and accessibility that keep the rest of us honest. Now, as you might guess, teams are mostly made up of people. Wait, no, I think they're actually all made up of people. We're not admitting to the AI coders yet. Anyway, teams map pretty well to code. We like to make sure that each part of the code base has a team that's responsible for it. Teams work on projects. Some projects span teams, but projects are scoped efforts. They have well-defined goals. We try not to have them last too long. And we layer on top of that what we call programs. Programs are strategic. They're long-lived. And they form long-term goals. And they're not exclusive. In fact, it's a sign of a good project when the project will help satisfy the objectives of multiple programs. And important to note is that while programs do have leads and programs do have a roadmap, they don't have a development team associated with them. So it's up to the programs and the teams to negotiate on what work actually gets done to satisfy the needs of the program. So the programs have to be pretty compelling, they're selling, and it's the teams that are buying. And as Drew mentioned, we're going to be spending most of the rest of today in here talking about the various programs we've got going on. In fact, there's a lot of programs. This is not all of the programs. These are just ones that we wanted to call out and discuss here at BlinkOn today. And just going through them really quickly. And this is the order in which they're going to be discussed later today. As Drew mentioned, we're going to be alternating between updates from the program leads about the objectives of the program, achievements so far, and goals for 2017, alternating with breaks. So the first one, predictability. This is all about removing those quirks, those interop issues that have made in the past developers' lives so hard. We should be spending more time or letting developers spend more time writing actually useful code rather than fighting with the challenges of different browsers. Capabilities. Internally, we call this Fizz. So if you ever hear us mentioning Fizz, we really mean capabilities. This is all about bridging the gap between a native mobile app and a progressive web app, and making sure that a developer deciding to build something for a mobile device, there's no reason they wouldn't choose to build it using web technology. Speed, performance. Obviously, we want the browsing experience everywhere to be light, fast, efficient. And that has two components to it. One is we have to, as browser engineers, make it possible for developers to build fast, responsive websites. The second part of it is we need tooling in there, both so that developers know when they're hitting performance problems with their sites, and so that we know when we've introduced problems and those graphs aren't going down and to the right anymore. Ecosystem alignment. aka iframes and third-party content. So you build a site, it's great, it's nice, it's responsive. Then you end up with an iframe on it. Then you end up with 2 iframes on it. And inevitably, you're going to end up with 100 iframes on it. And they're each trying to use the resources of the device to satisfy their own needs and their own goals. And suddenly, the user experience tanks. So what are we doing to address that? Well, the ecosystem alignment program is working on things like ways for the page to manage the third-party content it's pulling in, but also user agent interventions. These are things like that passive event listener fix, where we're going to say, on behalf of the user, nope, you can't do that anymore. System design or architecture. This is about making sure that the code base that we all work on makes sense, making it layered so it's easier for us to reason about it, splitting it up into components so we can make it more secure, and making it easier for us, or making it possible for us to improve our velocity when we're writing code. Similar to that, but outward facing, is ergonomics. Little secret, the web platform just sort of happened. It wasn't rationally designed. So just like we want our internal code to be something which is sensible and lets us operate at high velocity, we want the web platform to be something that allows web developers to reason sensibly about what they're writing, have APIs that are exposed at the right levels, like primitives, and have the features they need to continue building awesome websites. And as I said, there are other programs not mentioned here. Another one is Developer Experience DevX. And this is all about taking the work that we've been doing on the web platform and actually sharing that with the web developers through docs and tools, training, evangelism, and so forth. Okay, so sorry about that big info dump. Between all the team leads and the program leads and a little bit of help from Dimitri, we've put together some high-level goals for the web platform team for 2017. One of the big ones, improving platform interoperability and consistency. This is all about removing those quirks, those impediments to building sites that function across all browsers. And there's a lot of pieces to this. Better testing is a big piece of that. Continue to deprecate parts of the web platform that don't make sense anymore. We need to continue to refine the intents process so that we're clearer about the compatibility impact of changes that we choose to make. We need to be more responsive to developer pain, introducing things like bug SLAs, and even more outreach to developers through things like surveys. And one of the most direct ways that we can improve interoperability is through shared testing across the various web platform implementations. And Philip Jegenstadt will be doing a session tomorrow on web platform tests in Blink to talk about that.
Next up, making the platform more powerful by allowing web developers to extend the rendering pipeline. This allows things like the Houdini APIs, custom paint, custom layout, animation worklets to provide the same low-level primitives that we use to implement Blink to build their own layout primitives, their own paint primitives, or their own animations. However, we can't really do any of that unless we fix our own code first. So we need to improve how our rendering pipeline works before we can expose it to developers. We'll be giving a talk about that called Next Generation Engine tomorrow afternoon. We also need to make sure that we fix all the stopgap issues that prevent developers today from creating high performance and graphics focused applications, things like games. And we have a couple of efforts underway to help with that. Things like WebGL, audio worklets, and WebAssembly. It's not all about the high performance applications though. Regardless of the application type, be it a website that shows news or a complex web application, we need to have a better solution for loading, responsive loading, and also for doing asynchronous work. Those are things that are very, very hard to do right on the web today. We have a talk about scalable loading at Facebook tomorrow, where we'll learn a little bit more about some of the challenges around this.
Okay, the browsing experience. It should be fast and light and efficient. And to do this, we'll be continuing to invest in scalability, interoperability, or interruptibility, and performance isolation. And we need to teach Chrome to balance power and memory and responsiveness across tabs, doing this through efforts like the Global Tab Coordinator and the Global Memory Coordinator. And we need to broaden the fast path for developers so that when they're making a single minor change to their site, their performance doesn't suddenly tank. And that's doing things like Ganesh Everywhere, Vulkan, and accelerated property access. Sorry. Oh, and of course, measuring this does no good unless we're keeping ourselves on track and honest here. Speaking of performance, Shobi will be hosting a talk tomorrow about performance metrics and APIs.
But we can't really do anything of this, none of the things we've set out, unless we also take care of our code health. And this is things like paying down our technical debt. And this is something that we all need to do together. This is all of our responsibility, all of you in this room. There's a lot of things going on here. We have large reaching architectural projects like Blink Onion Soup, like certification, and removing the V8 full code gen plus crankshaft implementation. And we'll have a talk about V8 tomorrow while we go through some of the V8 aspects of this in a little bit more detail.
And finally, we need to help developers make the most out of this amazing platform that we're building. So for a lot of Googlers, this will be outreach, engagement at talks, helping developers, and investing in efforts like MDN to improve documentation that's out there. Continuing to support popular frameworks, and really importantly is we need to make sure that these best practices, this opinionated guidance that we have is built into the workflow that developers follow. So this is continued investments in dev tools, things like Lighthouse. Sorry. And of course, continuing to work on opinionated frameworks like Polymer. And Paul Kinlan will be giving a talk tomorrow, DevRel State of the Union, see what's going on in this space.
It's not all about technology and code, though. At this point, I'd like to welcome Mike and Dimitri up on stage to talk about the Blink community.
All right, thanks, Emil. My name is Mike. I'm from the Chrome team down in Sydney, and that's why I have this strange speech impediment some of us call an accent. For those of you who don't know me, my personal pronouns are he and him. So one of the superpowers of the web is its reach. Like, this project should be targeting a user base of 7.5 billion people. Like, every single person in the world should be able to use the web every day to get things done and make their lives better. Now, to be able to do this, we need to make sure that we understand those users. We need to make sure that we know their use cases and their needs. And to take a step back, to be able to do that, the Blink community needs to make sure that we're representative of all of those users. So the people, and the people in this room make up a massive part of that Blink community. Like, this is us that I'm talking about. And unfortunately, there were some of us who couldn't be here today, which was already mentioned. But we are doing our best to be inclusive of those folks by live streaming where we can and recording all the talks to be shown up later. But I think that even though not all of us could be here, we should just take a look around the room and look at the people in this room, look at our community, and ask ourselves, are we representative? Like, just take note of the diversity you see, of gender, of people from different countries, of different cultures. And are we representative of all the users that we want to use our product, that we want to use the web platform? And are we okay with the answer to that? Now, this is a heavy question, right? But, you know, like, what can all of us do? What can any of us do to help with this? Well, it doesn't have to be a big change. It can we can all make a difference.
Like Mike said, the change does not have to be big. It's sometimes hard to make a big jump and leap of faith. It does not need to be that. It can be small and incremental. You know, the unit of human interaction we have is code reviews, right? When you make code reviews, are we treating this as a just the facts, you know, robotic thing, or are we taking this opportunity to connect with each other? Are we trying to nurture ourselves, each other, to be a better community together, to help ourselves to be better at understanding users and understanding ourselves and growing this community? And it's really important because all these little bits end up helping us making a more excellent, better product, which results in a better web and you know, better world, hopefully, right? And how can we make this happen? It's the question that, you know, Mike and I ponder a lot, and it's something that we think about a lot. And the answer is that it's really up to you. You have to make a step. You have to make some sort of a change and understand better on what the step is for yourself. And there's plenty of material available. There's lots of information. You've probably heard about things like microaggression, compassionate communication, and we are here for you. So you can speak up or talk to us, and Mike and I are always ready to listen. But it begins with each and every one of us, right? You know, this change. And for me, for example, I found myself reading this book by Marshall Rosenberg on nonviolent communication. And I found it transformative. I'm still processing what it means for me. But despite the challenges in this world and the technical complexity of things we have to deal with and the whole platform stuff that we have to ponder and how do we make the web, mobile web better, and the current events, I feel hopeful. I feel hopeful because, first of all, I have better tools to help me deal with tense situations. It opens opportunity for personal growth for me. But also, it opens opportunity for us to connect to users, right? Because we need to hear and understand better user needs through the feelings they express toward us, sometimes in a very, very strong fashion on our bugs, and work with them to establish the requests that they're actually trying to make. And after we have that done, after we understand what the user needs, all we need to do is execute, right? And looking around the room, I think we got that part down, right? Right? I mean, we can do this. It's just a matter of really understanding the user's needs and understanding intents. And I'm hopeful that we can connect with each other more deeply and understand each other better. And then we're not just executing well, right? We're also enjoying this and having a good time. And I think this is what it's about. It's balancing this and making sure that all of this is clear and you're not just doing work, you're actually contributing to a better world somehow, and it all connects to you. So please take a small step today. There's, like I said, lots of material available. If you're interested, please talk to me and Mike. We're here. And be excellent to each other.